Hi, and welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Kibin Alleyne, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up, with the labor force participation rate at 62.5% and 0.8% points below pre-pandemic levels, WalletHub has released a report to get to the bottom of these numbers. We are joined by an editor for WalletHub to explain more about their findings. Then the nonpartisan, nonprofit News Literacy Project is helping voters learn to separate fact from fiction this election season. The Senior Director of Media Relations for News Literacy Project speaks more on their efforts. After that, the Harmony program is poised to make a resounding difference as it announces a significant expansion in its efforts to provide musical training to children. The founder and executive director for the Harmony program shares more details on this amazing program. And finally, the Oyate Group and XtraSpots are working together to bring much-needed parking availability to the Bronx. The founder of Oyate Group and the co-founder of XtraSpots join us in studio to speak more about their exciting new partnership. So stay tuned. All this and much more is headed your way because we're now officially open. Hello everyone, I'm Kibin Alleyne and today is Tuesday, February 27th. You are now watching Open, a program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to you. Don't forget to stay connected with us via social media at BronxNet TV. WalletHub is an acclaimed personal finance company that helps individuals achieve financial security. The organization recently published a report identifying the states facing challenges in hiring new employees. WalletHub's editor, Christie Matherne, joins me to discuss their report findings. Christie, thank you so much for joining me.
Hi, no problem. Thanks for having us on.
Now, can you tell us a little bit more about WalletHub and its overall mission?
Sure. So WalletHub is a personal finance company that offers a wide range of services and tools to empower consumers, including free credit scores that are updated daily. We have powerful comparison tools for various financial products, 24/7 credit monitoring, debt payoff tools, you name it. And we also do a lot of studies on trends in finance and consumer behavior, such as this one.
Exactly. So I want to talk about that. Before we get into the challenges, though, can you talk about the improvements we're seeing in the labor market?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. The labor market is showing signs of improvement, and there's a few notable indicators for this. For instance, the national labor force participation rate is nearing pre pandemic levels. It's currently at 62.5% as of January. Additionally, the unemployment rate has dropped to just 3.7%, and that shows increased job opportunities and a growing demand for labor. Employees are also showing a greater reluctance to leave their current jobs. And this gives stability within companies because it allows them to focus on filling new roles rather than constantly backfilling due to turnover.
Now, you just mentioned that employees are becoming less likely to leave their employers. You know, what positive impact could this have on the overall job market?
Well, definitely. To put it simply, when people are less likely to leave their jobs, it reduces turnover rates and it allows companies to focus more on filling new positions and fostering stability within their workforce rather than constantly having to search, hire, and train people to fill roles.
Now, this leads to my next question. For some time, there has been this misconception that people don't want to work, and it's been a narrative that we've been hearing a lot, especially since the pandemic. Can you just talk a little bit more about where this stemmed from? And, do people still kind of have this idea about, people just not wanting to work these days?
This misconception likely stemmed from shifts in workforce preferences and also accelerated retirements during the pandemic. And I think the pandemic shifted something in a lot of people, to be honest. However, the labor market is improving by the numbers, as we said earlier. I think it's clear from a 3.7% unemployment rate that people do want to work. The rate of quitting has decreased from its 2021 high. So people want to keep their jobs more than they ever did before. And despite these positive trends, many businesses still face labor shortages, particularly in certain states. I think the attitude maybe is still out there that people don't want to work, but I don't think the numbers show that.
Now, can you tell us more about your study and the most recent report on employers and the hiring process?
Sure. So we use data from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics, and we analyze job opening rates for both the latest month and the past 12 months. So the report highlights states with the most pronounced hiring difficulties.
Now, can you talk a little bit about, what were some of the major findings in this report?
The main findings, we highlighted the states with the most significant struggles in hiring, as indicated by job openings rates for both the latest month and the past 12 months. And states where employers are struggling the most include West Virginia, South Carolina, Alaska, Colorado, and Minnesota. And these states all had the highest rates of job openings in the US.
Now, can you explain why we may actually be seeing like some of these states struggling to kind of fill these spots?
Well, one of the economics experts we spoke to for this study, James Bailey, pointed out something notable here. There are more job openings in the US than there are unemployed people. The latest data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics job openings and labor turnover study shows that there are 1.4 job openings for every unemployed person. But the labor shortage problem could also be due to other factors, including recovery of job growth post-pandemic. Like, we're still not quite to where we were. So there's also accelerated retirement rates among baby boomers and industry-specific talent shortages, particularly in technology and healthcare.
Now, just to clarify, is it that they can't find people to fill these jobs, or possibly could it be that maybe the jobs are open, but there aren't enough people qualified for them? Do you have any like insight on and maybe that aspect why they're struggling to hire people in some of these positions?
Well, I think that it's possible that it's both of those things and all of those things. And I think also additionally shifting attitudes toward work, including a preference for non-traditional roles and possibly hybrid work from home preferences as well, can contribute to this too.
I'm so glad that you actually brought up work from home, because I think stemming from the pandemic, that was probably the main thing that kind of changed the workforce. I think honestly for the entire future, people are going to either want to work from home or, do hybrid. Can you just explain the impact that has had on the workforce in America?
Well, I think that people wanting to work more from home can definitely affect hiring struggles. I keep hearing personally about offices trying to get their employees back to the office, and they're getting a lot of pushback. I think from people who have been working from home for a couple of years, and that makes sense to me. When you get used to something so much, and I think a lot of people are more productive at home too.
Right. Thank you so much for kind of like touching on that, because I think that it is changing the way we see just work in the future. And it could have also like a possible like large impact, because so many people have gotten used to working from home or taking care of the kids and working. So thank you so much for talking about that. Now, the
Yeah.
job opening rates in the last 12 months for New York is 4.43%. Can you explain, what this number means for some of us who may not understand that, and how will it affect employment rates in New York City?
So this means that over the past year, there have been on average 4.43% of job openings relative to the total number of jobs in the state. So this rate suggests kind of a moderate demand for labor. However, it may not significantly affect employment rates in New York City. as the rate is relatively stable between now and the past year. Now it's 4.6%. So that's not necessarily indicative of a major surge or a major decline in job opportunities. And New York ranks 47th in our study, by the way. So it's
Now,
doing pretty well.
now for a lot of these numbers, they were looked at, as you mentioned earlier, like in January, so we're really early. How do you think this will change, or how do you foresee this changing? Let's say December 2024, January 2025.
Well, that's hard to say. These things do move kind of slow. If there's any indicator between the past 12 months and now, there's not a ton of variation. So these numbers are moving slow, like I said. I think we're still not out of the woods on labor shortages. And I think we're going to see a little more struggle in hiring until the end of the year, at least.
Now, this was just, one of the things that WalletHub does. Can you tell us a little bit more about, what the organization does and possibly like maybe some other studies that they have looked into?
Sure. Well, we also, in addition to having comparison tools for different financial products, we cover loans, car insurance, credit cards, and everything a consumer would need to be kind of financially savvy. And we also do credit monitoring. We have debt payoff tools like calculators. If you're planning to get a mortgage anytime soon, we have a mortgage calculator that you can kind of see where you're going to save the most money with your rate. And with our studies, we put out a ton of studies, especially recently. We, in relation to the study that we're talking about, we also have a study about states where unemployment claims are increasing the most. We have changes in unemployment rate by state, best and worst states for jobs, best cities for jobs, and we also have a lot of things about the economy in general.
All right, well, I want to thank you so much for joining us and having this discussion.
Thank you so much for having us on.
To find out more about WalletHub and their report, please go to their website at www.wallethub.com. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Open after this. Welcome back. AI and deepfakes have become increasingly prevalent online. However, with the election year approaching, many people are worried about the potential misuse of this technology to spread false information. To help voters distinguish fact and fiction, the nonprofit organization The News Literacy Project is taking action. Christina Veiga, Senior Director of Media Relations at News Literacy Project, joins me to discuss. Christina, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for paying attention to this issue.
Now, can you brief us on the overall threat of deepfakes and AI?
Yeah, so I want to acknowledge right off the bat that there's been a lot of hype around AI and deepfakes. People claiming it's going to save the world, AI, or that it might usher in our destruction. I want to kind of bring it down a little bit and acknowledge that there are potential benefits maybe to this technology, but also there are challenges, and that includes deep fakes. And this election season, we want people to be aware that there could be mis and disinformation created and spread by AI, and that includes deep fakes. But there are also ways that you can learn to spot it to make sure that you don't fall victim to being misled.
And we're definitely going to get into those. But I want to talk about, just this technology. How is it overall just being used to spread misinformation? Like, what does it possibly look like while we're scrolling on our social media?
Sure. We've already seen some instances this election season of AI and deepfakes being used to spread mis and disinformation. That includes in New Hampshire some robocalls that sounded like Joe Biden encouraging voters to stay home. So we've already seen that this technology can be used to create really convincing sounding and looking fakes. So if you're scrolling through your social media feed, at first glance, it might not look like anything out of the ordinary. And so one of the biggest tips that we tell people is just to simply pause and to think about what you're looking at, what the purpose of it is, and maybe take one extra step to confirm whether it's true or not before you decide whether to believe it, and especially before you decide to share it with friends and family.
Now, you said something that I thought was so interesting, and you said that people were getting calls, which shows that it's not just online or just while we're scrolling. Can you tell us a little bit more about maybe the different mediums people are using to kind of spread deepfakes or AI?
This technology can be used to create images that look like photos. It can be used to create video that is very real looking and convincing. And yes, audio calls too. Outside of the election, we've seen this technology used to try to scam people out of money, making phone calls claiming that a loved one is in danger and you need to send money to secure that, to get them out of jail or whatever it is. And so there are many different forms that this technology can take. And again, just pausing, asking yourself what the purpose of the information is, and taking some extra steps can really go a long way to keeping you safe.
Now, as you mentioned in the beginning, there's been a lot of hype around this, but misinformation efforts targeting political campaigns and elections aren't new, actually. Can you just explain maybe what were some ways people did this previously?
So before I came to the News Literacy Project, I was a reporter and I covered local politics. And people have lied about their opponents for a long time. Maybe before it looked like a mailer that came in your mailbox with some claims that were not true. Now it's easier and quicker than ever to create this kind of false information and to spread it at scale. And so we really want people to, again, just be aware because that is the first step to making sure that you don't fall victim to it.
Now, what I find so interesting about this is that we often have this idea that the people who are creating this are maybe people, just random people online or people in their basements or something. But really, it's a lot of people are doing this. Even reputable organizations that are kind of they have a great website. They have all these resources are actually contributing to this. Can you tell us a little bit more about that occurrence?
So we saw the campaign season kick off with a video from one of the major national parties that was entirely created by AI and showed kind of an America and the world in chaos. We saw more recently in Philadelphia, there was a sheriff whose campaign website included a bunch of headlines that actually turned out to be generated by ChatGPT and were not real. And so we see people already using this technology in the campaign season. And some of it is it's so new, maybe people aren't aware of its limitations, and so we want to make sure that people understand that too. A lot of people are experimenting with AI themselves. We want them to know that it's got a truth problem, that AI can be confidently wrong about things and spit out information and answers that are just totally made up. And so if you're using the technology yourself, you also need to be aware that it has limitations as a source.
Now, what are the long-term impacts AI could have on this year's election?
So AI can be used to spread all kinds of narratives about voting, who should vote, who shouldn't vote, who can vote. And so again, we want people to be aware that when you're looking for information this election season, especially about when, how, where to vote, that you need to be turning to credible sources. And that includes, your local election officials. If you're looking especially for information about the voting process, who's eligible, what you need to show up to vote, turn to those kinds of sources and make sure that you're double checking anything that you come across, especially on social media or from a source that you might not recognize, because that can have a real impact on the election.
Now, young people often have very low voter turnout, and many have expressed not even voting this year. How do you think AI could affect younger generations who are amongst those who spend the most time online?
So I want to be fair and acknowledge that people of all ages are struggling to find credible information these days. The News Literacy Project, we actually started off working in classrooms, and we still are doing that. That's a core part of our work. We believe that young people need to be taught how to navigate this information environment. We can't just assume that they're digital natives and somehow they intuitively know. They need to be taught. And so, yes, the young people need to be aware that as they're scrolling through TikTok, for example, there was a recent finding that as many as 1 in 5 videos recommended to them could contain misinformation. And so again, the first step is knowing there are people out there who might want to mislead you, especially around the elections and especially around the voting process. So make sure that you're asking yourselves questions about the sources of information that you're going to and consulting credible sources that follow journalistic standards like fact-checking, like disclosing their sources, especially when it comes to making decisions about how you're going to vote, when and where you need to vote. So young people, but people of all ages need to be aware and inform themselves.
Now, I think the most important question of the segment is, what are some signs that can show someone may be encountering AI or deepfake content?
So one of the things to know about mis and disinformation is it's oftentimes designed to trigger a really strong emotion in you. That can be something like fear, but it can also be something like hope or wonder. And so when you find yourself having a really strong reaction, that's a good sign to stop, to ask yourself, what's the purpose of this information? Is it meant to entertain me? Is it meant to inform me? Or is it trying to persuade me to do something? And once you've asked yourself those questions, you can take it a step further and ask, well, what is the source? What do I know about the source? Are they following journalistic practices, like disclosing their sources and citing where their information came from? Right now with AI and deepfakes, there are some limitations to just visually, so just look at it and ask yourself, does this look right? And that can go a long way too to stopping yourself from falling for this.
And I also like that you mentioned that sometimes it just wants a reaction out of you, because there are people online who just want engagement with their content. So they'll say and put out anything just so that you click it or so that it gets maybe 1 million views. So I think that's also really important to know. Now, what is the News Literacy Project doing to ensure voters are making informed decisions?
So this election season, we have an information campaign just letting people know that yes, mis and disinformation abounds at this time of year, but there are ways that you can protect yourself. So we offer free resources online. We're doing all kinds of free training events. And so I really encourage folks to go to newslit.org/election, and you can find all kinds of infographics, free tools and quizzes, and we're doing online events. This year we're doing one in Spanish. It will have already passed by the time this airs, but people can watch the rerun on our website or on our YouTube channel. It's really important, especially that Spanish-speaking voters know that there is mis and disinformation targeting their community specifically, and how to spot when that might be happening and where to go for credible information.
Actually, can you quickly just expand on that? Because I didn't even think about how it may target minorities and marginalized communities.
Yeah, so one thing about mis and disinformation, especially around the elections, is that it could be used to create divisions. And so there are often mis and disinformation campaigns targeted at specific communities. And so we want those communities to be armed with awareness and the skills that they need to spot that, avoid it, and to go find credible information this election season.
Well, I really appreciate you taking the time to kind of discuss this because I think there's so much more to learn about AI and deepfakes. And as you mentioned, so many people have these like polarizing views on it. Can you quickly just let us know, what do you think or like what do you see in the future in regard to AI and deepfakes? Because you did mention that it's not all bad. So, what do you think?
So AI is getting better and better every day, and we see that people are trying to use it for positive reasons. In the medical field, for example, we think that the rise of AI and its continuing, it's evolving. Really just makes it more important than ever for people to be news literate, which means that they can identify credible sources. They know where to turn for information, and they know how to spot the signs of mis and disinformation. Because again, it could also become easier than ever with these tools to spread that kind of false and misleading information.
And we have about a minute left. I want to talk about, I know that people say that this is moving faster than maybe the law can catch up to it. Do you think possibly in the future that there could be some laws targeting this?
So we've seen, I think, more than a dozen states now try to take action in all kinds of ways. Some states are concerned about the potential of AI to exacerbate biases. We've seen some of that with facial recognition technology. So some states are looking at that. There's also been talks about trying to regulate mis and disinformation. AI as it relates to election information, requiring folks to disclose when it's being used, that sort of thing. The tech companies themselves are also trying to take steps with agreements that they opt into but are not necessarily binding. And that's all important. This is going to take many different approaches, including legislation, including the tech companies, and including all of us taking personal responsibility to learn how to recognize when information is credible and when it's not.
I want to thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
To learn more about News Literacy Project and their efforts to stop misinformation for the upcoming election, please go to their website, www.newslit.org/election. Stay tuned, we have more open for you right after this.
Hey everyone, it's your girl Kat from the Kitty Rose Lifestyle, also from The Next Chapter, where we discuss shades of gray every week right here at BronxNet, Saturdays at 11 p.m. Wow, 30 years. 30 years of BronxNet public access television. I'm a girl from Brooklyn and came to the Bronx 25 years ago, started my journey on BronxNet on public access television in 2016, and BronxNet is where I got my start. BronxNet, I feel like, is a home away from home. They support all of my endeavors, and I wouldn't have been able to be on any of the other channels if it wasn't for the fundamentals that I learned right here at my start here at BronxNet. So I am so appreciative. My son says I should stop telling people I'm from Brooklyn because I've been here now, Bronx strong, for 22 years. So I'm so grateful, and I wish you much success in 30 years, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30, 30 more, because public access is necessary so that people like myself can have a voice. Yes, BronxNet, it's your girl Kat from Kitty Rose. Check me out every Saturday at 11 p.m. right here, Channel 68, The Next Chapter, where we discuss shades of gray. Mwah.
Welcome back. The Harmony program aims to make a difference by providing underserved New York City children with training in the art of classical music. As the program continues to grow throughout the school year, the program will triple the number of students it serves, expanding from 1,000 to an estimated 3,000 students. Founder and Executive Director of the Harmony program, Ann Fitzgibbon, joins me to discuss. Ann, thank you so much for joining me.
My pleasure.
Now, can you tell us about the beginnings of the Harmony program?
Sure. I started the Harmony program many years ago. I was working in the New York City mayor's office. And while I was working on education policy, I became aware of how many kids across the city never had the opportunity to learn to make music. And having been a musician myself, I had an idea and I created a pilot project that brought talented musicians into communities providing young kids with instruction.
Now, can you talk about like maybe what year? And we talked about how it's just grown. So can you talk about maybe from like maybe that first year to where it is now?
Yeah, well, I planted the earliest seed when I was working in the New York City mayor's office. That was in the early 2000s. I had a seminal year I spent in Venezuela studying a famous youth orchestra system they have there. They just call it El Sistema. And that's really what helped define the organization the way it exists today, really prioritizing social change through music, reaching kids in need, and opening up a world of music to them.
Now, you said something that I thought was so interesting in opening social change. Would you say that's possibly maybe the overall goal and the mission of the program? And I don't know, I think it's beautiful using music as a way to do that. Can you talk a little bit more about that and that overall mission?
Sure. Well, what we're doing as an organization is providing this musical training with the goal of helping kids not only discover a lifelong love of music, but also to discover through their musical training some of the habits and the skills that we know are going to support their academic achievement, their healthy social development, and lead to lifelong success.
Now, what was the significance of having children specialize in music, but specifically classical music?
Yeah. Well, I think people don't often understand how broadly relevant musical training is and how it supports the learning process. Kids learn to listen to one another and focus and persist and collaborate. So that's all that comes from some of the rigorous and formal training that they get. We want to make sure that they're not just listening to other people make music, but they learn to read music themselves. They learn the technique on their instruments and to make music with others. And from there, once we give them a firm foundation, they can discover whatever genre of music they want to explore in the future.
Now, I think I've worked with children in the past, and it's fun, but it can be difficult. So how did you manage teaching children how to play these instruments that are so challenging and so there's just a lot. Like I think like the violin is like a really hard, interesting instrument to learn. So how did you conquer that?
Well, you're reminding me of some of the early days when I can recall an early class of cello students who ran up and down the hallways dragging these expensive instruments behind them. But the beauty of it is that in really short order, after just a week or two of classes, those same kids are learning proper bow holds and positions, sitting, paying attention to their teachers. We scaffold the instruction so that little by little, children are learning these skills. And by doing that, by overcoming something that seems really daunting, they prove to themselves that they're able to do hard things. And that's a lesson we want them to carry with them.
Now, what can participants expect from the program?
So young people come to us with little or no prior experience studying music, and that's great. We love to be the first ones to have the joy of giving them an instrument. They'll have a small group class, usually no more than about 10 or 15 kids. And after a year of instruction, they will participate in our free summer camp. So we provide year-round instruction. And after about their second year of lessons, we'll encourage them to join one of our ensembles because that is the goal and the reward, to make music with their friends.
And can you talk about those ensembles?
Yeah, so this is something we're really excited about. Over the last 16 years, we've been building these local instructional programs, but we want every child in the organization to have the opportunity to be a part of an ensemble, which is the most fun part of making music. So we're committed to creating a borough-based system of what we're calling youth orchestras, but there'll be choirs, it might be a bugle, drum and bugle corps, youth orchestra, string orchestra. So all of our kids have the joy of sitting within an ensemble and making music with others.
Now, is this the Bronx-based creative ensemble that we're talking about?
So we've already created 2 youth orchestras in Manhattan. We have young people in the Bronx that we're gathering by the end of this year into a string orchestra. So if there are listeners who have some experience on a string instrument, I would really encourage them to visit our website, find out about our summer camp, and find out about the ensemble too.
Now, what I think is really amazing about this program is that when it comes to classical instruments, these classes are usually very expensive.
Yeah.
Could you just talk about, the importance of having this available and accessible to students in areas like the Bronx?
Absolutely. So we're all about access. It's why I founded the organization. It was to bring this opportunity to kids who wouldn't otherwise be able to afford a music program. So we provide the young people with their instruction. We provide them with the instrument for as long as they're in the program. And we know that often people's financial circumstances are the reason they can't access an opportunity like this. So we make all of our services available to our young people free of charge.
Now, what are some of the long-term benefits of participating in a musical program like this one?
I love an opportunity to talk about this. There is some fascinating neuroscience research out there about the connection between the music and the brain, between music and the brain. And what we know is that music engages every known part of the brain. It helps develop executive function, memory, physical dexterity, language acquisition, emotional regulation. I could go on and on. There is nothing bad and everything good about the study and performance of music. And I feel like parents need to understand this so that they demand this of their school and community leaders.
Now, do you have possibly any stories of maybe a child who, maybe transformed from the beginning of the program towards the end?
Oh, so many. I can remember a little girl in Harlem who said she wanted to study the trumpet so she could hear herself, she said. And a couple years later, she was the winner of our little concerto competition, and there she was standing center stage playing with an orchestra of her friends. Other of our students have come into the program, many of them very shy. They develop a sense of self-confidence and have gone on to be teachers, performers, even working in the music industry.
That's amazing. Now, I wanted to touch on the confidence and the self-esteem. Can you expand on that a little bit more? Because I think it's also so important that this is being instilled in children at a very young age.
Yeah, one of the best things that music does for young people is it helps them to learn the practice of breaking down something challenging into small, manageable components. That could be a line of music, a measure of music, note by note. And as kids learn to do this, they learn that as long as they focus and persist when something is difficult, they're capable of achieving. And again, that's something that they can carry with them long after they're in the Harmony program.
Now, I'm curious to know, what got you into music in general? Did you have a similar background? Like, did you start as a child? Like, what kind of sparked that love for music for you?
Well, I came from a family where music was really important. My dad was a public school superintendent, so he was a huge believer in education and music education in particular. My sisters and I all played musical instruments, and it was a source of so much joy for me that was really at the root of my founding the Harmony program. It was to help share with other young people what I enjoyed as a kid, and I still enjoy to this day. I'm a clarinetist and an aspiring guitarist.
Now, I want to talk about how, like, in education, music programs, and sometimes just the arts in general, don't get as much love as maybe some of the other academic subjects in school, which are obviously very important. But could you talk about maybe why people should look into kind of supporting the arts in education, especially in public school education?
Well, I've done this work for 2 decades now, and what I've realized is often we have school leaders and community leaders that themselves have not benefited from music education, and I worry that they don't understand maybe how fundamental music can be to the learning process, and that's why conversations like this are important to have. And I find that I'm spending more of my time as an advocate trying to share the importance. So all that the young people need to understand is how much fun it is. But for the adults making decisions about our young people, how they spend their time and what goes into their education, we need to understand how important an opportunity music education is.
Now, I mentioned earlier that the program went from having 1,000 students to an estimated 3,000 students. Can you just talk about that? That's a lot, but also congratulations, because that means that there's a need and a want for this. Can you just talk about kind of rapidly growing and, what do you hope to see for the future of the program?
Right. Well, there's been a lot of momentum that has come after a lot of hard work, a lot of lean years where we would go into communities asking for an opportunity to show them what their young people could do. And really it is just about opening those doors. So now there's almost like after we have a network established already within these communities, within the community of teaching artists and educators, more people are asking for this. So it kind of has a multiplier effect. The young people in our program bring their siblings in the subsequent years. As we're in a school and one class gets access, then the principal wants more classes to have it. So that's really what's happening, and we're hoping that people will continue to spread the word.
Now, what advice do you have for parents who, hear about the program and feel like this is something that they want their child to get into, especially if maybe the child doesn't know they have an interest in music yet?
So I'm sorry, the question is, how do you get parents to?
Yeah, what advice do you have for parents who want their child to be in this type of program?
Yeah, well, I think that it's such a valuable experience for any child, and I think we're too quick sometimes to judge our own musical capacities. Adults will hear what I do for a living, and the first thing they say is, "Oh, I'm not musical, I have no ear." But everyone is musical. And especially for young people, when we have little kids in a room and you have an instrument within reach, they can't wait to get their hands on it. So I say to parents, be vocal about it. Contact us. If we're not the right fit for your child or your community, we'll help you find somebody who is.
Now, what are the requirements needed to participate in the program? So, what are the ages, possibly what schools, and things like that?
Well, we want to bring music where it's needed. So if you're a school or a community where you don't have this kind of opportunity, we'd love to hear from you. We target primarily elementary and middle school children, and again, they don't have to have any prior experience studying music, just a lot of enthusiasm.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us and talking about this. I love to hear that children from the Bronx and from communities like the Bronx have access to classical music, and it could honestly pave the way for a really beautiful just relationship with music and possibly even a career. So I want to thank you for the work that you're doing and for joining us to talk about it.
Thank you for speaking with me.
If you would like to learn more about the program, please go to their website at www.harmonyprogram.org. We have to take a quick break, but we'll be back with more Open after this.
Congratulations, BronxNet, on your 30th anniversary. Bronx Best is my show, and I had a great experience being able to bring my story to the Bronx Network. It's really changed my life, and I look forward to growing with the network, and I think that it's a wonderful place to grow and learn, and I think that everyone should take advantage of all the wonderful programs and things that go on here.
Only 57% of New York City high school students are college ready by their senior year. %5% of high school graduates either have no plans to attend college or are uncertain that they will ever attend. %34% of young adults don't go to college because they can't afford it. Discover what's possible. BronxNet's education programs, internships, and opportunities help engage and inspire Bronx youth and beyond to pursue their passions. Be a part of the BronxNet family. Whether you're interested in our shows, joining a class, or donating to support our mission, visit bronxnet.org to learn more.
Welcome back. Bronx-based nonprofit Oyate Group partnered with online platform XtraSpots to improve EV charging access, parking space growth, and passive income opportunities for car owners in urban communities like the Bronx. Founder and CEO of Oyate Group, Tomas Ramos, and co-founder and COO of XtraSpots, Charles Sepulveda, join me to discuss. Thank you both so much for joining me.
Thank you for having us.
Now, I think it's always amazing when organizations can come together to find a common goal and to work towards something. So can you just talk about how the collaboration between both of your organizations began?
Yeah, the collaboration started because of our community capital program. Our community capital program is an incubator program where we provide capital, mentorship, an accelerator, a 10-week accelerator program for aspiring entrepreneurs from our community, the Bronx and Upper Manhattan.
Now, Tomas, we had you on the show before, and we got the pleasure of learning more about your organization. But Charles, we would really like to learn more about XtraSpots and its overall mission. So, can you just let our viewers know a little bit more about your organization?
Awesome. Yeah, so XtraSpots, we're an online platform that allows anyone, whether you're a homeowner or a business owner, to list your unused parking spot and maximize income earning opportunities on it.
Oh, wow, that's really cool. Now, what sparked the partnership to focus on EV charging stations as, one of the main goals? Because I think it's very interesting. It's very like moving towards the future and the way people, have different types of cars. So, what sparked the partnership to focus on EV charging stations?
Yeah. So when you look at the government mandates right now, by 2035, all new cars, whether they're new for purchase or for lease, they need to be zero emissions. So when you think about living in the Bronx or any city, where are you going to park your car, right? Like if you're in an apartment and you have EV charging space, that may be possible. But if you're just like renting or something, it may be very difficult to find a parking space.
And is this specifically for electric vehicles, or is it kind of just for anybody who has possibly just an open parking space?
Yeah. So it's for anyone that has an open parking space. So EV charging is something that we are going to incorporate later, but as long as you have an open parking space, you're able to capitalize on the platform.
Now, I want to talk a little bit more about electric vehicles because just doing the show and upon my own research, I've learned that there's actually a lot of challenges when it comes to owning these type of cars. So can you just briefly share what you noticed regarding EVs and charging stations, especially in the Bronx?
Yeah, so when you look at inside the Bronx, there's only 20 EV charging stations right now. And most of them, they are in actual public parking lots. So when you look at if you purchase an EV car, where are you going to park that, right? Where are you going to charge it? So what our platform allows is for individuals to rent out their driveway, but also phase 2 is going to be allowing those driveways to have EV charging built into it. So then people could charge their cars as well as park in it.
Now, Tomas, can you detail how this is part of Oyate's larger mission towards nurturing economic prosperity and just kind of, just being more involved in what's happening within the Bronx?
Yeah, small businesses are the foundation of our community. It's how you build economic development and opportunities for people from the community to have their own businesses. XtraSpots is an interesting company because they actually reinvest by putting money into the hands of the people from the community. So if you have a driveway and you want to make passive income, you can sign up through this app and earn a passive income. So it's in a much broader picture of we are supporting and empowering XtraSpots, but overall we're empowering our local community with opportunities to bring in passive income as well.
Now, I think that's just so interesting, and I didn't even know that was something that was possible. Can you just talk about maybe the importance of just educating people in communities like the Bronx to understand and know what they have at their fingertips can be used to kind of help them in the future?
It's through our program, we try to educate our community as much as possible and letting them know that the businesses that we're investing in is for the greater good of our future, and EV is something that really interested us as we're seeing how things are changing and evolving. So letting families know that you can earn a passive income, and also if you don't have a driveway, you actually have the opportunity to park it at maybe your neighbors or somewhere around your neighborhood, and really get benefit from this.
Now, how does the focus on EV charging stations assist with urban development?
Yeah, so that's a great question. When you look at urban development, you see a large trend towards sustainability, right? So there's a lot of sustainability going out there where you want everything green and all that stuff. So when we look at what we're looking to do, it's going to do a lot of growth, right? So we're looking at some health benefits. So instead of you being in a car circling, looking for parking, you're able to pre-book your parking spot and park directly in that driveway. So that right there is lowering emission standards. And also the entire platform of just going green and having that EV charging station later down the road is really going to benefit the Bronx as well as any city as we expand.
Now, can you also just talk about the importance of urban development and having the Bronx be, just one of those boroughs that are constantly, although it may take a little bit more time and more resources, it is evolving and becoming better. So can you just talk about that in regards to urban development and, just why that's important?
Yeah. Well, when we look at the Bronx, there's so much culture and entrepreneurship and like eagerness here to want to make it happen. I spent a long time in the Bronx. I grew up in the Bronx. My family has restaurants and businesses in the Bronx. So I really know the community of people here that are looking to expand and do something better with themselves. So when we look at our platform, right, it's going to help out small business owners with earning extra income. It's going to help anyone who's a homeowner or a property owner rent out their driveway, rent out their spot to not only make that passive income to reinvest into the community, but then just make the overall environment a lot cleaner, because you're going to have less traffic, you're going to have less pollution, you're going to have a place for people to park their electric cars when we get that route.
Now, the Bronx is usually last, or at least it feels like the Bronx is usually last when it comes to new development. Can you discuss the emphasis of starting this particular program in the Bronx?
Yeah. Well, it's the last, but with this, it's going to be the first. So, we're very happy to bring this in, into the community, and we're just going to take it from here and just expand out. Plus, it really goes with our mission statement of what XtraSpots is doing is that we're making new parking spots. We're not capitalizing on what's already out there. So you have driveways, you have businesses that have lots. These are going to be new places where people could park in. So very excited to bring this to the Bronx and to the community.
Now, I would like to hear from both of you, and Tomas, we can start with you. What are some ways you plan to expand and grow and pretty much just evolve this overall effort?
So for the program at large, we take percent equity in the companies that are a part of this program. And the reason why is we want to make sure that we provide all the tools necessary so XtraSpots and any other companies that are part of this program are successful, and we reinvest those resources right into the program and to the community at large. So that's how we plan to continue, funding this program and building it and helping future entrepreneurs, be successful as well.
And can you tell us, what ways you'd like to see, this effort expand and just grow? Yeah.
Well, a lot has to do with the community, right? Here being with the Oyate Group, there's a huge community outreach, right? We really want to make sure that the XtraSpots brand gets to the masses, that individuals out there who are looking for ways to earn any type of passive income or extra money could jump on our platform. And just in the past week, we've already had a success story where someone here local in the Bronx by the 4 train, they rented out their parking spot and they made an extra $50 in just under a week. So when you capitalize that over 2, 3, 4 weeks, that's extra money that someone's earning in the community, which they could reinvest into what's going on out there.
Now, I really want to talk a little bit more about the history between both of the organizations and how you guys met. I understand that you were also in the program that Oyate Group has, put out. Can you just talk a little bit about your experience in that program? And, what kind of gave you the idea for XtraSpots?
Yeah. Well, so the idea spanned from my co-founder in San Francisco, where he was on a date, right? He was going to go on a date and he couldn't find a parking space. So he illegally parked his car in front of someone's driveway. So obviously when he got out of the date, the car was towed. It was a $300 price to get your car out, and his date didn't end up going anywhere. So, the idea sparked in his head like, wait, I could have just paid that empty driveway owner money, gone in, did what I had to do, and go from there. So that's really where the idea came from. But to take an idea and put it to action is completely different. We built the $1 million app with a very limited budget, but we did it with the support of people like Tomas and the Oyate Group, where they created the platform for us to be successful, have an incubator, get our name out there with the community to really take this forward.
And Tomas, just to, talk about it, I feel like it wasn't that long ago we were just here talking about, the program just in general. How does it seem now that we're, a couple months, a year later, and to see that, some of these organizations are really kind of saying what they are doing, what they said that they would do. How does it feel to kind of see that?
Yeah, and it's very surreal for us. It was just a pilot program. We wanted to, show the outcome, show that this works, so we can continue expanding it. And being able to have XtraSpots part of this pilot program and already launched and already seeing revenue, it's fascinating, really. So just hopefully next year when we come back, XtraSpots will be in a whole different place with their business, and we continue to see the growth and really hope to inspire other local entrepreneurs to apply for community capital, to get involved, and for us to be their support system.
Now, Charles, I really want to talk about just, first of all, congratulations to kind of start from somewhere small and unfortunately a bad day and to kind of turn that into something positive. Can you just talk about maybe some of the challenges with, maybe creating your own app or, just having a business like this in general?
Well, with the challenges are, they're out there, right? When you look at the technology industry, it's, between 5 to 6% of underrepresented folks in there. Right, so that right there is a challenge already when you're talking to investors, when you're trying to get people to believe in your project. You look different, right? You're not the typical individual who's trying to make something happen. So that's something that we had to overcome, but also building something from scratch, right? Turning an idea, which is on paper, over to an actual business is its own challenge. But when you put technology into it, it opens up an entire new world of privacy laws, of we got to make sure people's security is super safe, which it is, making sure that, we're able to get the information out there. So it's a lot that went into it. But when you look at the actual end product, right, like last week we had an ad on Times Square, and, I'm a pretty tough guy. I started to tear, right, because it's just like, wow, I can't believe, we took this from nothing to, having the ad on Times Square, and we're going to be featured in Link NYC. And a lot of that has to do with the community and with individuals like Tomas supporting us throughout the journey.
That's amazing, and congratulations for that.
Thank you.
Now, Tomas, can you just let everybody know quickly how can they apply for the Community Capital Program for the next round?
Yeah, so I always encourage people to follow us on social media. We're at Oyate Group. We're on Instagram and LinkedIn and Twitter. Also, our website as well. Keep the eye open when we have the next open applications. Right now, we are about to launch our 10-week accelerator program with the first cohort. We're looking to launch community capital for the fall. So that's why I always encourage people to follow us. And we're always updating our new programs, and just keep an eye out for the next cohort opportunity, which will be in the fall.
All right. Well, I want to thank you both so much for joining us. And it's really lovely and just amazing to see how the program continues to grow and how we see so many people from the program come on the show and talk about their experience. So thank you both so much for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
To learn more about how this app works, please go to their website at www.XtraSpots.com. I've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you missed any part of today's show, you can catch the recable cast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios Channel 33, or watch anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Darren Hemick on Wednesday and with Rena Valentine on Friday. I'm Kibin Alleyne, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.